أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم. As I said, I couldn't prepare slides for today, so I beg your pardon. I'll just stay there so that we have something there. Okay, so we continue with the questions, and there was one question. The question was more like, how can one be made convinced about afterlife? And I'm taking this as a personal question rather than me trying to convince somebody else for afterlife. But how can I be convinced about afterlife is going to be my question for myself and for you as well. So there are, inshallah, my plan for this discussion is to split it into a few pieces. What makes me be sure that there must be an afterlife. This is how, inshallah, I'm planning to talk about it. And today, since justice is a topic which is nowadays boiling our blood, I wanted to start with that so that it's going to be relevant time-wise as well. But before we get to justice or anything of that sort, I would like to again take our opinion about what does it mean to believe in afterlife, and if you don't mind sharing how sure and secure you are and why. Shall we start from here or there? Dua, what do you think?
Start from there.
Okay. So, Yugan, what do you think? How sure are you? Like, what does Iman bil Yawm al-Akhir mean for you?
It's ghaib.
Ghaib,
Mostly.
meaning?
So, we didn't see, and it's kind of unknown.
Okay.
In a way that we can confirm other things, not in an unknown way, which we don't know what's going to happen there. So I guess we need some kind of evidence or support system to actually believe in afterlife, which I believe is Quran is one of the biggest supporters, and the hadith that we have from Prophet ﷺ are the biggest supporters of afterlife. So although some people can come to that fact with their logical reasoning or their observations, for most people, I believe it's the basis of knowledge of afterlife is from Quran and Hadith.
So there must exist an afterlife because God says so. There must exist an afterlife because Prophet says so.
Mm-hmm. We can also think about, this life isn't 70 years of our time in this world isn't enough. So there must be something else.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think this will affect every person in the same way.
So for you, which one would be more important? Like, you are a student who is studying in America, studying like a successful student in electrical engineering. Honestly, for you, which one is the higher priority?
I guess they're interrelated. The 6 pillars of Islam, Iman. But I would prioritize Quran and Hadith. And then believing in afterlives, also believing in prophets. So believing in afterlife, the angels, the qadar, they will come afterwards. So my priorities are Quran and our Prophet ﷺ's life, Hadith, because they actually have evidence, scientific evidences as well. So it's not just...
Okay. What do you mean by that? Like, for example, Prophet's life or sayings, what sort of is scientific? What do you mean by that? Or maybe Quran.
When we look at them, and when we look at the suggestions that Prophet ﷺ made, or the rulings, they can be applied to every aspect of life.
Okay.
And the new scientific methods are coming to that conclusion as well. They're suggesting ways to live life, which Prophet ﷺ suggested 1400 years ago.
Therefore,
there is a science, there's an earn in that, which a humanity cannot come up to it by himself or itself.
Also, this testifies the truthfulness of word of the messenger.
Yes.
And then you say, the same person also says that there's going to be an afterlife, so it must be true as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This is the believing hadith perspective, and Quran perspective is kind of the same thing.
Okay.
We can come to a conclusion where Quran is the holy book,
Okay.
and in that book, afterlife is being mentioned.
Okay. So I believe in afterlife because I have a conviction for the truthfulness of Quran, and Quran says there's afterlife, so it must also be true. I have a conviction in the truthfulness of the messenger, and messenger says there's afterlife, so I accept what he says as true.
And since there is afterlife, I can confirm that there are prophets and books, Qurans and Torah and Bible as well. Because if there was an afterlife, Quran and Bible, having Quran and Bible and prophets wouldn't actually make much sense. So, as I said, they're interrelated. So we cannot think one out of another.
Yeah, they're interrelated. I agree with that, but also we should make sure that we are not making a cyclical argument, because if Quran is true, therefore there must be akhirah. So since there is akhirah, then Quran must be true. Sort of a cyclical argument shouldn't also happen. Like, I mean, sometimes those discussions might be a little disturbing, and disturbing in the sense that what we have been accepting so far. Sometimes I'm trying to push you a little bit, and I'm trying to make it not so disturbing, to say that, yes, to a certain extent, what you say is true, and it works to a certain extent. But probably even when you're buying a car, you're being more inquisitive than when you're talking about afterlife or God or anything of that sort. So since you're now grown up, like unlike being a primary school, secondary school child, maybe we can gear up these convictions. So this is my attitude. So if it's being a little disturbing, bear with me. I mean, my point is not to disturb your faith or whatever, but sometimes, and this is how it happens with the classes that you take. Like in our department, people take introduction to programming in the first year. It's out of their comfort zone a little bit, but stage by stage, we build it up. In the second year, they start taking data structures. In the third year, they start taking artificial intelligence and whatnot. Gradually, each of those courses are pulling you out of your comfort zone. This is why you're getting tired being a student. So same thing applies for, like, every day is you're waking up to a new day. Like you woke up and then you saw that somebody is bombing civilians. It's shocking. So what do you make out of that, right? Because there is justice, there is mercy. You learn that God is merciful, God is all just and whatnot. And then you say, oh, yeah, it's going to come in afterlife. And afterlife you believe in because Quran says so. Now it starts becoming a cyclical argument. And especially if every day media and whatnot start bombarding this faith, and this is your support network, if once it starts collapsing, your faith is going to start becoming a little weaker in your life. So this is what I'm trying to do. Go ahead.
So as you said, people attack to those pillars of this Iman. So if the reason why I added that afterlife supports Quran, believing in afterlife makes him believe in Quran too, having that cycle is because there may be some times which I don't remember why I believed in Quran. So if I have that kind of connection between pillars of Islam, if I have problem with Iman to Quran, then I could still have Iman to afterlife, and that will make me come back to believing in Quran. So that's why I mentioned it. It's not to be in that cycle.
I see. I was just pointing to it so that at some point it might be a problem. I mean, it might be working for now, but as the troubles start getting stronger, and then those previous evidences or convictions that you have starts falling apart, then you will need something new. And in this day and age, this is happening. Like the attack to belief is from all angles. And we are learning unbelief as part of our everyday job. Like everybody in here is studying college, and what we learn has nothing to do with faith whatsoever. You have to provide that interpretation to it, which is a hard job. So in the absence of that, we are already under fire. So this is everybody's individual duty to come up with that perspective. So just to remind us about what's going on so that we do not sugarcoat saying that, okay, yeah, I study here, but I attend MSA. So my staying in the university becomes a little more religious. I mean, it's good. Do stay within the boundaries of MSA, but use it as an occasion to educate yourself. Okay, so this is why these discussions are going to be a little bit disturbing to take you out of this comfort zone. How about you?
Back to the question. Long with the questions.
Okay.
This was a very long conversation with some
Yeah.
good tangents, and I was
Okay. So belief in afterlife.
Okay.
How sure and secure are you? Because belief means iman means being sure and secure. How sure are you? How secure are you? Why you are secure and sure about it?
Right. I guess right now the way I would answer that is when you implement the commandments of the Quran or the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam in your life, it makes you, I'm going to say the word a better person in this life, but what I mean by that is, like, I'm thinking of an example. If you look at a weekend or a night, even like a Saturday night or Friday night, where you go out and engage in enjoyments of the dunya, right? Like a college campus, partying, doing all that. When you look back the next day, so one person does that and one person spends the night following Sunnah, studying Quran or reflecting on themselves, doing some act of worship. The next morning, when they look back, the person who was not out partying will be more satisfied and will feel more at peace, will feel more fulfilled, will feel happier with themselves as a person, I guess. And so because of this, these actions are said to be rewarded in the afterlife. And because they're also making you they're also bringing benefit in this life, I think it makes sense that they would translate to the afterlife or to an afterlife.
Okay. So if there exists an afterlife, then this should bring a benefit in there.
This life, like, effects of our actions in this life should in some way reflect an aspect of their effects in an afterlife. Or the fact that effects exist reflects something of an afterlife with effects for your actions now.
Okay. And I'm going to inject a few questions in between. Any Hindu here?
No.
No, right? Everybody is a Muslim. Good. So it's not going to be insulting. And my point is not to insult. Hindus believe in reincarnation. How do you find it? Does it sound meaningful to you, or you laugh at it? Like, how would you treat the idea of reincarnation?
It's fun.
Like, in my previous life, I was something else. Now, in the next one, I'm going to become a king, right?
Like, if you do something good, then you become a king. But then if you do something bad, then you could become a snake or.
Yeah.
If you collect good karma, then you're reborn as something higher, and eventually you escape the cycle life and death. That's the eventual goal.
Okay.
If you keep doing bad deeds, then you keep going down.
It's kind of like an afterlife also.
No. What instead?
Yeah. So if you were born into a Hindu family and they said that here's our Vedantas, and in those writings it talks about a form of resurrection. I mean, you're never dying at the end of the day, you're just changing shape, but life continues for you. And our book says so, it must be so. So would you be able to break out of that cycle? Like finding it dissatisfactory? You shared your one. Let's continue. Okay. Like now I'm trying to look at it from a different perspective. Somebody else's book says that there's a different form of afterlife, and it is more about just cycling within this life. And practically, if this world is going to be alive, and it seems to be alive for however many billion years, right? So maybe it's going to live another few billion years, or maybe eternally, as scientists would claim. So then if I stay in the cycling of life here as a king, as a beggar, as a snake, as a cow, something, right? In India, being a cow is also being a king, so it's good. So if you were born in such a culture, would you believe in that version of a afterlife, for example?
So I have like some knowledge of what they believe. because I've lived among them for a very long time.
Okay.
So I think what they believe is this cycle breaks after you have done enough good deeds in your life. So in order to break that cycle, you have to be good in this life, do good deeds in this life, which will eventually break that cycle and will enter you to be like the eventual afterlife.
Okay.
So
And is this more sound to you than Islamic afterlife?
of course, Islam's afterlife explanation is better.
Okay. So there's a sense of betterness in there, right? So it's not simply, oh, since the book says so, it must be so,
Yes.
right? So the explanation should be making more sense to you so that you're saying that I go with this one, not with the other one.
Yeah. So how I understand it is like it all makes sense because it is the answer for why we are being sent to the earth or why this human population exists. Because I understand this as this life is a test, and there is always a reward for any test that you give.
Mhm.
So if you pass this test with flying colors, then you'll be rewarded, which will be the afterlife. And if you don't, then there is a punishment for that.
Yeah.
Which is also in the afterlife.
This beautiful now, the topic is a little bit opening up. So it's not like the package deal. Like in the book, it says there's afterlife. So I believe in afterlife. And probably that's not what you guys meant, but just I'm trying to open it up a little bit. So the content of the message also matters. Like how afterlife is being presented to me should make sense to me in a certain sense, so that I would say, I mean, of course, the other one is funny. This one is, yeah, I mean, this is how it must be. I mean, independent of just the book comes with the news, since the book is right in everything else, this one I cannot make sense of it, but I'm going to buy it. This is one way to go. The other way to go is, no, this book is right because I can confirm every aspect of it. This is why I think it's right. And then I do see this aspect of the book, and it also makes 100% sense. Likewise, so I am sure about it. It's not like, I mean, both of them are some sort of a sureness, but the second sureness is like you're so sure than simply saying that whatever this guy said had been true so far. I mean, I guess this is also true. Versus you see it and you're sure that it's true, which will make us come to why it must be true. We'll be digging deeper in that sense, because iman again means being sure. So iman bil ghaib, belief in the unseen, does not mean that I don't see it and I have a good feeling that it's likely to be true, or I wish it was true, sort of a thing. Iman means being sure. Like iman involves yaqeen, certainty. What do you think, big boy?
I just want to be sure, because like when I think about it, there's two cases, right? There's judgment, there's no judgment. We're talking about there's judgment. And our lives has no meaning, because even if we're being judged based on what we did, but there's nothing afterwards, and what's the point of the judgment? If there's no judgment, then it's like we're going to school 4 or 5 years here, then we're stuck. There's nothing after that. No job, no life, nothing to do with this life, basically. But like it gives us a sense of security that our work in this life, following teaching, is gonna get you something. So it gives a meaning to the life, in the sense of you will be rewarded for what you did in this life. Your actions will be watched 24/7.
So then it's completing the picture is what I'm hearing. Like there is an aspect of life that you can relate to, such as life, like otherwise life would be meaningless. But let's say if you take life as a learning ground for you to learn about something, I'm leaving it as something for now. But then you say that learning about that something make only sense if you complete the picture with an after learning experience, like you study in this college, and then there's no life after college, meaning once you get your diploma, after the college, you just burn it and you're zero. Then you say, well, that education itself becomes meaningless. But this itself is a meaningful experience, must be a meaningful experience. So there must be something after the college education. So I guess the way you observe this side of the equation would give you a certain conviction about what should or must come afterwards. So that's why analyzing the first part of the picture is important. What do you think, Zara?
Well, so I think like reading scripture to a side first, I think based on our own experiences, we can like basically use inductive reasoning to reach the argument that an afterlife must exist. And that is different from saying that afterlife does exist.
Hmm.
So in a sense, like, for example, if I say, let's say, all humans are mortal, and Parker is a human, therefore Parker must be mortal. Now, if Parker, whether or not he's mortal, I don't know, till he dies. That's the only way to confirm. I can use the same reasoning to give different examples, like all humans are born from two parents, a mother and a father. Jesus was a human, therefore Jesus must have two parents, right? So must, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't happen. Now, how do I reach this conclusion of must? Of there must be an afterlife is, first of all, death. I don't want to die. And I am going to die. Because it's like, and also I crave for meaning in what I'm doing. And without like at least concept or an idea of afterlife, it very quickly leads you down to the path of nihilism. Nothing makes sense to me. Why don't I just kill myself? So it's anyway, it's ending now. So I crave for meaning, and then also I don't want to die. I need something permanent. But then I look around me and I am a creation, there's three creation around me, and I see all these signs around me. I see resurrection on a small scale happening around me. Seasons is a very good example. Or like how Quran talks about it is like how we use send down rain and revive the earth. So afterlife does exist is based on a news, and that can only be given by the creator or his messenger. As far as I'm concerned, I can only use things because there must be an afterlife. And that's based on personal experiences because like the creator that is creating me is also giving me these like this discomfort with the idea of death and like that everything is meaningless. So there must be a truth.
Good. Leave something for us to discuss. Good. Alhamdulillah. These are very good points. Yes. And inshallah, we'll talk about these chopped into pieces all the time. But it looks like there is a substantial reason for you to be saying that there must exist such an afterlife. Khadir, how about you? If Zarar left anything to say here?
That was what I was going to say. You said what about justice in afterlife as well, like that point that I wanted to make apart from what he said, like this coming to the conclusion, you can come to the conclusion yourself that you as a human do not want non-existence, you want to exist. Like after this time is where you want meaning to the life part. For the justice part is like you see a lot of injustice in your own life. Like personally, that's why I believe in afterlife. For example, you're not getting something that the other person is as a like you make a dua for something and you don't get it. And sometimes I would feel like this is an injustice to me. But when I say like creator is just, so I can say that like if I'm not getting the reward right now, I'll get it in the afterlife. Because that's how the creator is just. So that is how I can tie justice into the
Good, inshallah. And I'm going to start frying you once we get to justice. Since you bring up the point, inshallah, we'll start with questioning. Yes, Tahneem? No, was it Tahneem?
Yeah.
Your name? Okay, Tahneem. Yes, go ahead, Tahneem. Yeah, I mean, how sure and secure are you with afterlife? And honestly, I mean, not to put anybody down or anything of that sort.
No, to me, it's not even just that I'm sure, but also I like knowing that there's an afterlife because that is literally the only way it makes sense. That's the only way everything makes sense. Like one thing, I can think of many things, but like one thing is, for example, every form of worship that we're ordained to do. Like, why are we doing this? I know, like, for example, praying 5 times a day, it can definitely be comforting, but that's not the point to it. I mean, it's like, then why is there a strictness that comes to it? Why do we have to pray 5 times a day? And it's like if we don't, what's going to happen? And I feel like if we all, like, if there was an afterlife, we would just kind of see it as something very voluntary. And maybe at one point we would stop doing it or not take it seriously, but we have to take it seriously because we know we're going to be questioned about it. And that's one point. And another point is like, for example, I think we definitely discussed it here at some point where I know sometimes people who don't believe in God or religion often bring up an argument which is like, if God exists, then why do so many bad things happen in the world? Like, why do these tragedies and disasters happen? where like innocent people are hurt. And the only way you can find comfort in that is that they will find justice at some point. And otherwise it's just a dead end. You cannot like you cannot come to any solution for that. Like there has to be something. And yeah, even not even just like the large scale disasters or bad experience, even for like everything that we go through. Or like for example, so many people like for example die of natural causes, whether that's for example people die by accidents or whatever, and we like it's normal for us to think that's so unfair, like that person died so early, they didn't get to experience all these things. Like there has to have a way to make sense of all that and to find comfort in that.
Yeah.
And accept that. Yeah, acceptance.
I mean, that's good. That's beautiful. Today I was talking to an Iranian friend before Juma. So talking about what's happening and whatnot. And I was somewhat mentioning afterlife, and I know that it's not going to be a good effect on him anyways, because he doesn't believe. But when he was leaving the office, he said, afterlife is going to be good, mockingly. Yes, I mean, if there's an afterlife, everything is going to be good, but is there going to be an afterlife? Is his attitude, right? Because he's nowadays, I guess, exploring Buddhism a little more. Like you live this life and you become part of the nature or whatever. I don't know the details, but like as if the attitude was you're fooling yourself. Like, okay, yeah, definitely, you're feeling in the comfort by assuming or quote unquote believing that there's afterlife. But his attitude was more like, and he said some words like this, like, yeah, keep your eyes closed, like this. Like believing in afterlife is keeping your eyes closed to the reality is an attitude of someone. When somebody comes with that attitude, am I feeling like a little bit of a shake? What if he's right? Or am I feeling like this guy has no clue what he's talking about? Where am I? I mean, this is what I mean by Iman. Because if I'm feeling a little shaky, which I can, then that means my Iman needs some reinforcement in there because I'm not sure. Or I'm getting excited, meaning, go, just give me some evidence from here and there. That means, and it's a good sign that I need to update something. I need to fix something. But if I'm feeling like, but comfortably, as if somebody asks you, what's your name? And I say, Yusuf. And Parker says, no, your name is not Yusuf. We're going to know it better. Of course it's Yusuf, right? I am sure about this. Am I same level of comfort and sureness when it comes to afterlife? So this is what I'm trying to explore. Remind me your name. Inshirah. Okay, Inshirah. What do you think?
I kind of think about it a lot internally. Sometimes I like get really anxious. And I've had bad anxiety like since I was a kid. And I remember the first time thinking about death and like the afterlife. I was like 8 years old. And for a whole summer, it like depressed me a lot because everything, I guess I started thinking like things conceptually like now. It wasn't like nothing was making sense. It's not worth anything. Because I just didn't know. And my parents were Muslim, but I just didn't know. I wasn't taught enough at that point. So everything felt really worthless and really pointless to just move on in life.
Was this at age 8?
I was like depressed for a whole summer.
Okay.
I didn't go outside. My mom was actually very concerned.
Okay.
So that just didn't make sense. It's like, would I do anything for if I'm just gonna die? Everything's just leading all to this one place, this scary box that I'm gonna be put in. I'm gonna feel it, and that just didn't feel comforting enough.
Mm-hmm.
So as I got older, I guess it made me act out a little bit until I started learning more to feel comforted. And then after that, I feel like I just turned into like this good soldier where it's like everything that I heard about Islam is like I feel comfortable in knowing that Allah is real. Like that feels like the most secure thing to me. So everything I just pulled down from that, I'm like, okay, that's correct, that's correct. Where it just became a straight arrow for me that nothing else made sense or nothing else gave me comfort.
Mm-hmm.
And that like in my little shell, like in our bodies, I feel like my soul. Like I know that I'm there. So if I'm here now in this reality and my soul was there when Allah is deciding to make the world and asking everybody, do you want to go? And I agreed. My soul agreed to that, then it has to be something at the end that we were promised, justice or reconciliation of whatever. The things have to be real. It just felt like it made sense that there's gonna be an end to this step, but there's a next step.
Mhm.
And after that next step, it felt like all of that was a natural progression of things. That was the only thing that like comforted my anxiety. Like I have a lot of family that aren't Muslim. So my parents are both believers. And like knowing about what they believe in their faith, trying to put it in perspective, it never made sense to me, especially like Christianity for the most part. On my dad's side, he's the only Muslim in his whole family. And like seeing what they believed and my dad knowing that very thoroughly because he was the pastor's son, knowing that it didn't make sense for him and learning about what they believed, it was like none of this makes sense for you guys. Like that, does it feel like a proper steps?
Mhm.
I just felt like a good soldier, basically,
Okay.
just listening.
And inshallah, at some point, it's in my list, Sami'na wa Ata'na portion. Inshallah, we're going to discuss this as well. But yeah, Jazakallah khair. So definitely that keeps you in a stable state of comfort, and it's visible and it's understandable. Yeah, inshallah, we'll talk about all these to open it up a little more. What do you think, Nazla?
I guess I wanted to talk about the justice perspective as well. I feel like it's in our human nature to believe in afterlife, as it kind of gives us fulfillment to know that all of everything that we do in this dunya, like all of our sin, like all of our good deeds, all of them are being counted in afterlife. And we also know Allah's mercy and how no matter how big our sins are, we can just make dua and Allah always has mercy. So knowing that, I guess, gives us comfort and fulfillment. And on another perspective, I feel like knowing afterlife helps us answer other questions that we have about this dunya, like why we are here or what we're supposed to do in this dunya. I feel like it wouldn't make sense to start answering those questions without believing that there was an afterlife.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point in terms of all matters of iman supporting each other in both ways. But again, I'm just going to repeat what I said for Bilgehan's question as well. In terms of proof, though, every single one of them needs to have an independent conviction as well. Otherwise, if I make this circular argument among them, they will collapse all at once. So I need to have a conviction for which I am sure about. Let's say if you say that I am sure about this table exists, right? And then if you build your argument on top of that, saying that, let's assume you say that if this table exists, there must also exist afterlife. Since I am sure about that, the other one is going to become and so secure and sure. Because for me, for human, there is some unquestionable truths such as taste, feeling, and whatnot. To the extent that I am sure about this, I will be sure about the other one as well. But if I start tying everything open in the air, this is true because of that, it's true because of that, but none of them has a basis in the reality that I'm experiencing, at some point, it might collapse. Not only that, it might not be functioning in my life or providing the benefit that I'm expecting from it. And this generally comes to the surface at the times of trial. So nowadays, seeing what we are seeing in Gaza is one such case. So yes, we say that they become martyrs, they go to paradise. I don't know if you guys have seen this little baby who was shocked and not just shaking. He looks like our little Ali. So it really shocked me to see that, because now I'm imagining my son in this situation. So if tomorrow that child asks the question, you say God is merciful, where is mercy? Do I have an answer to say him rather than saying, oh, it's going to be an afterlife? Then he would say, what is afterlife? Because we are living in such a world where God is just coming from tertiary sources like parents. Our main source is the school, and there's no room for God or anything in this sort of education we keep getting from daycare. Like you get an education of this got less education, let me put it this way, from daycare to your 20s, if you study graduate school to 30s, and you're trying to counter this education by what you kept hearing from your parents. Do you think it would work? Just honestly, is it balancing really? So this is where we are. I'm just trying to wake ourselves up from that dream. Yes, to my kids right now, still I am talking about afterlife, mercy of God and everything, but they are age of 2 and 4. They are not 18, they are not 20. Because once they become at that age, what I'm telling to them today wouldn't work. Because the world is challenging them, questioning them, making them question, right? So, yes, Sultan, what do you think? You seem very relaxed and secure and comfortable.
So I don't have like any like super strong connections about Afterlife. I read this book now, the grad called, I don't remember the name.
It was that influential on you. You don't even remember the name.
I know the name. It's by Ibn Tufayl.
Okay.
It's I Yazan, I think.
Okay.
But it's like a second old book and nobody reads it, but I think it's a fascinating book.
It's the original of Robinson Crusoe, right?
It's a very hard book to read. So and there he talks about this thing called soul, like every human body has a soul, and you know, a human body can function on its own, but it won't be necessarily alive because you know this thing called soul. Yeah, and to me it's like, well, at the end of times, you know, the soul is supposed to go somewhere, right? And it's this place where it's supposed to go. It's presumably afterlife. That's how I try to rationalize it. Now, on the other hand, I try to play. Me being a mathematician, of course, I play lots of thought experiments, and I tend to ask myself, like, what if you know, one day instead of you know having Quran in the present form that we received it in, what if we just remove everything about afterlife? Like, how is it going to change anything? And well, what is it going to change in terms of like my service, my worship, and everything? Well, and to me, it sounds like, well, you know, from my very, very limited experience, it's like nothing's going to change. I'm still going to pray 5 times a day. I'm still going to do the things I'm commanded just because they are commanded. You know, like if I'm commanded to do something by Allah, like I'll do it, and I won't ask like too many questions about it. Some things, you know, like. You know, I'm a scientist and I try to rationalize things very, very, you know, in a certain way. And there's some things that I just don't understand and I will never understand. And I'm comfortable with not understanding them. And if Allah says, well, you just do it and there is no reward for it, or there is a reward for it, like I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like I don't do it for the reward, but I just do it for the sake of doing it because I was told to do so. And that's my perspective. If you can challenge me, go ahead.
We'll see. It's a long journey. It's a long journey. So Dua, you escaped in between, but still we came back to you.
I guess I'm convinced enough that the fear of it leads to some action in my life, but then there are highs and lows. You know, like at times I'm also not. My conviction is so low that I don't really like hurry to pray, you know, because if I was convinced and if I had that presence of mind at all times that there is going to be an afterlife, I would rush to pray, you know, and I would rush to do good things and I would constantly be doing them. So it's just a lack of presence of mind, but I do believe in an afterlife. And it's like, you know, like for me, I like to think about the future, and I have been imagining the future since I was very young, you know, like, okay, what's next? Like college is next. I'm going to leave Pakistan, go to another country, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, you know, like I want to imagine at the end of the line also, I will be imagining like what's next for me, because I do think I have a purpose and I want to experience more things in life. I do have that need. And it's a very depressing thought to think, because like the most important moment for you is the present. And it's a really depressing thought that your last present is just going to be like, there's going to be nothing after that. And it's just going to be a collection of like all your past that you're never going to live again, and all like the death of that joy and all that. So I do think like it is disturbing to me to think that I'm going to die and there is going to be nothing after that. And I do have this need to live on. Unlike animals, we don't live like a day at a time. We're thinking about the future. We want to live. We want to know what's next in life. So I do think we have that need. And because I have that need, I expect the being that has put that need there to satisfy it. And then I also have like other needs. Like I see these things around me, like, you know, like people call it the accident of birth, you know, like why does somebody who's born into wealth get to enjoy like these things in life? Why is this person suffering? Like, why did they deserve it? And so I am seeing injustice around me. And I am also seeing that I like justice. So if a person is working hard and they get paid for that hard work, I will be like, this is amazing, you know, like he deserved it. So I do then think that, you know, to me, it's fair that there should be an equalizer at the end of the line that, you know, like that equalizes all of us and that gives you that reparation, you know, like if Britain looted us, like I want the reparation. So I feel like I also have that need at the end of the line for, not for myself, because I don't think I've suffered that much or whatever. But I do think for people, I would like to see that, you know, that justice, that reparation, them to deserve, them to get the fruit of what they've worked for. So I do have these wishes, and I think an afterlife satisfies those wishes within me.
It would be nice.
Yeah, it would certainly be nice.
It would be nice if there would have been an afterlife.
And one last thing.
Go ahead.
I guess I'm also not fazed by resurrection.
Phased, meaning?
Phased, as in I'm not bothered by it.
Okay.
Even if it comes in the Hindu sense of reincarnation, because to me, it's like, I am also coming from death. You know, so it's not that shocking of a notion that I will rise again after I die, because I also rose that first time. So, yeah.
Okay. Jazakallah khair. So I think this depicts a picture of, in general, where we are, because there were quite different perspectives. And again, let's remember our general attitude towards Iman. So Iman should include certainty. So, but yes, Iman is built upon unseen. Like the thing that you're believing is unseen, even if it is belief in scripture, which you see in front of you, or belief in prophets, which people saw prophet in front of them. I mean, even if it is for us, we haven't seen him physically, still belief in prophets was a matter of belief for the people who were sitting next to the messenger. So it's not a matter of seeing that person in flesh and bones. So belief in the unseen shouldn't simply be that, oh, this is something that I don't see, but I have to. Yes, you do see prophet, but still, belief in prophethood is something different than simply seeing a human body who claims to be a messenger. Can you confirm him being a prophet? Because a person being a prophet is an ghaib content for you. What does it mean to be a prophet, right? This is the topic of your conviction. Likewise, seeing afterlife is a topic of unseen. Like even if it was that you see, I don't know, grave being opened and this and that, the point is, am I convinced about afterlife existing? Is the distinction clear? Because the topic of Iman is a little fuzzy in our heads. It looks like it is something like, I know that this is black sort of a information. Belief is not that type of an information. It is, you do observe things in life, but you conclude with something that is beyond this existence. You do see a human being who says, I am messenger of God, but by observing his pattern, his message and everything, you conclude that my creator sends me a messenger. This is what belief in prophethood means. This is why it's not simply believing in the prophethood of Muhammad. This is why Quran says they believe to the book and messenger and those that came before them. Belief of prophethood is believing or having convinced about this fact that my creator must send me, would send me guidance in scripture, in human. So I'm using this example, although out of topic a little bit, to highlight what we mean by iman, and iman in the unseen. So unseen doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, I haven't seen that what's happening after I get out of the grave. It's not a matter of seeing with your eyes. It's not a matter of touching it. It's a matter of you collect information from your experiences and what does it lead to. And sometimes this sounds like, again, I'm trying to make an intro, although we are running out of time. It sounds like, who used the word, did you use the word rational? No, you used it, rationalizing, right? So this is something that is poo-pooed within, let's say, religious circles. That's why I'm not going to use that word. But I'm going to use the word of, as a human, when you're buying a car, what do? You're making a calculation, right? What are the benefits? What are the pluses, minuses? And then you arrive to a conclusion. When you're going to get married, what are you going to do? Your mother says, okay, marry this person. I mean, you would say, well, let me think about it, right? I mean, nobody blindly goes and says, okay, since my mother says so, I'm going to. For such simple things, which we don't take as simple because they are really affecting our lives, we are using whatever tool is given to us. Let's talk about marriage, since it is the unspoken, but the most hot topic among youth. So you weigh your feelings, you weigh also outcomes. Okay, I mean, this person, this hot feelings and whatever I start feeling towards that person, but also he's a loser, he's so lazy, this is the other side, right? I mean, I might be loving the person, but he's a loser. What do I do with that? So you are weighing it and you say that it's not going to work. Now, after 2 years, his laziness is going to start jumping on me, and then we will start fighting. We better not start that. What did you do? Why didn't you simply follow your mother's command to get married with that person, right? So we do use our senses, our intellect for arriving to, for navigating in life. Now we are talking about the ultimate question of this life. Where did I come from and where am I going to? Because yes, we always plan for tomorrow. The ultimate tomorrow is after I die. All the tomorrows that I build up is going to get destroyed. Every planning becomes meaningless because of death. You planned, and then you died. So what was the point? So this is the ultimate question. And for all those plannings, I use all my senses, all my intellect and everything. But when it comes to the ultimate question, I don't. That's why I'm not going to use the word, remind me the word again, so I hate it so much, rationalization. So it sounds so detached from reality, generally speaking. I mean, not necessarily it should be, but it's being considered as hypothesizing, making thought experiments which are so much detached from life. No, I do make those thought experiments when I consider marriage, when I consider buying a car. This is part of life, right? How about my ultimate question? Where am I going? What happened with the child that died under a bomb? These are serious questions that are, if you don't sweep under the carpet, that are just shouting at your face. Do you have an answer to that? Or I will try to avoid watching those videos or anything because I don't have any answer and it disturbs so much. And I don't want to lose my faith and comfort in the God. So I better not silently avoid getting in that territory. Otherwise, I'm going to get shaken. So let's be honest with ourselves. We have a problem and let's try to start fixing the problem. This is a lifelong journey. Nothing is going to change overnight. But do I have the determination to start solving that problem? And in general, so I was giving khutbah at Penn today. This, I think, is also part of the problem with what we are going through as Muslims today in the world, which is becoming obvious nowadays with what's happening in Palestine. Probably I'm not going to start the topic today anyways. So why do I live? the topic of the khutbah at Penn was, I was comparing, because this is what I have been thinking about. Such a thing, now that I see this boy shaking and it makes me like my blood boil with anger and all those feelings, and I cannot do anything other than just reposting something and maybe going and chanting somewhere and maybe sending money to some organization, which, I mean, they're not even allowing money to get in there, so you don't know what's happening really. And just venting out and feeling nice. And it became a recurring pattern. Every 2-3 years, the same thing seems to be continuing and nothing is changing. So what is wrong in here, in me, that the Creator is making it shown on those people? The same could have happened in here. I mean, it's still happening in here. You have this myth of, what is it, freedom of speech and whatnot, which now is clearly obvious that it's nowhere, not in academia, nowhere, right? In Prophet's life, how did he behave when he was oppressed? So I was looking at two pictures. The first one is in Mecca. He has been oppressed for 12 years in Mecca. Torturing, killing was there. Embargo for 3 years, no food, no social interaction, like during the time of Shib Abi Talib, and they were just excommunicated from the community. They were so hungry that they were digging earth, trying to find some dead animal's skin to cook it and eat. That they explained that level of hunger at that time. What was their attitude? Because those are people who are oppressing them, right? Their attitude was chanting for freedom of speech. No. They chanted for La ilaha illallah. This was the message. This is all they care about. This is what they lived for. Is the word La ilaha illallah heavy on you? Like, imagine yourself. When you say the word justice, does it have this heavy and loaded meaning in you? Put it aside. And you say La ilaha illallah. Does it have a similar weight in you? Does it excite you, or just the feelings in you? Does it stir a similar sort of a weight in you? Does it mean somewhat similar of weight, or it's more of a lip service? I mean, yeah, it technically means God is one. There's no God but God. And I can come up with arguments to prove that. It's like a logical thingy, or maybe I say it because God says so, whatever it is. Is it as heavy and strong in you? Do you have a conviction? Because you are convinced that justice is important, right? Freedom is important, right? How about La ilaha illallah? Does it have the same weight? I think for Prophet, and Prophet means, let's use the Arabic word, Rasul, which means the one that is sent, and Nabi, the one who brings news, right? Messenger. His life was all about that message. This is why in Mecca, he was patiently absorbing all these, because he embodied that message and he distributed that message. This was the point. This is what was disturbing the rulers of Mecca, because La ilaha illallah in essence meant justice. It in essence meant freedom. It was meaning all those things that we now think that no, justice is justice, freedom is freedom. La ilaha illallah, it means there's no God but God. And since they were the people of message, even to their oppressors, they were trying to convey the message. The reason I started with this shaking boys video is what it reminded me of. This boy I'm trying to protect his 60-70 years of life, worldly life, and it must be boiling your blood as well, making you angry. And today, anybody on this campus, let it be a Muslim, let it be a Christian, let it be an atheist, whatever, is like that child in the sense that they are shocked about what's happening in this existence, in this life, because everybody says get joy and this and that. They are not able to cry to their own meaningless lives, and after lives are getting lost. Do you feel that fire in you. Like that person who didn't embody message in their life, let it be your friend in the dorm or whatever, your friend, right? That person's eternal life is ruined. There's no afterlife for that person, right? Even there's no meaning of life for that person. That person is a living dead. Are you feeling sorry for that? I should, but I don't. Why? How much am I convinced about afterlife in the first place? How much am I convinced about La ilaha illallah in the first place? This is why we do feel the importance and sacredness of life. This is why I feel so sorry for the child when I see that bombs are shocking that child, right? To the same level or to a comparable level, if I start tasting the value of Iman, that conviction for Allah, for afterlife, I will feel so sorry and get excited and anxious to help any person, let it be your Muslim friend who might not be aware of what's going on with life, with the purpose and existence, or your Christian friend, or your atheist friend, or your Jewish friend, whomever. You would feel the same anxiety to reach out and deliver the message to that person. To me, only that can explain why Messenger was patiently accepting all the oppression from Meccan people. Or, you know, the famous narration about when Prophet was stoned by the people of Ta'if. He went to Ta'if to invite them, and then rulers of Ta'if organizes children to throw stone at the messenger, and now messenger is bleeding, and the Creator sends an angel saying that, would you like that angel to close that mountain on top of these people? Prophet's response is, no, they don't know what they are doing. Like, that is mercy, but how can somebody have such a mercy? If you truly feel the importance and value of Iman, and those people are behaving like this because they are lacking it, you wouldn't be, rather than anger, you would feel pity towards that person. I cannot explain else otherwise. So in my life, does this message, La ilaha illallah, have a weight? And if, with all the events that's happening right now, yes, do your protests in a meaningful way and whatever. And you're not going to buy, as now they're mocking, anything from Starbucks for 2-3 weeks, right? And then after 3 weeks, everything goes back to your routine again. You start all those protests. So you went out for 3 weeks, you go back to your routine, right? If you would like to have some lasting effect for Palestine, for anything, fix yourself in terms of having this Iman. The word Iman should really be something so heavy. It is heavy, but is it heavy for me? Am I sure and secure as my name is Yusuf? Or is it more like, I mean, not to say that it's meaningless, but, or is it at the level of, my dad says my name is Yusuf, I guess it must be Yusuf. Like, where is it? How much am I sure about something? So is it relying on somebody else's report? Is it relying on, it would be nice if it is like this, so I better pretend as if it is? Or is it that, no, I am sure if I am alive right now, since I am alive right now, I am sure I will be kept alive by the one who gives this life to me. Am I such sure? So this is why let's try to embody, first immerse that message for our own good, and also embody that message. I can only embody the message as much as I am immersing it. This is how I think a long-term solution would happen, because I feel like Muslim Ummah is that body, and now that body is sick, and the symptoms are showing off nowadays in Palestine. This is where the bleeding is happening, but the whole body is already sick. Yes, let's try to stop that bleeding, but it will only be stopping the symptom. Every individual, as me, like, this is where, and this is the hard job. This is why reposting something in the Facebook is, although it's not that easy anyways, because of all the pressure and whatnot, it is the easier one relative to having the change over here. And this is what Prophet patiently did for 12, 13 years. Fast forward, they go to Medina. Now they had 3 battles with Quraysh. One lost, one sort of. And then after Ahzab, like Handak, Prophet sees a dream, says that he was making Umrah in his dream, and he says this is a command, come on, we are going to Umrah. Like you are going to the homeland of the people which you had war with, and you are going there without any weapon or anything. You just go there with the pilgrim clothes and just a single sword, which was a custom back then.
Didn't they have weapons?
Just a single sword. And it was a custom to carry a sword because, I mean, it's not like 2023 America. Like even in America, you can carry a single weapon anyways. So for self-protection in the deserts, right? He goes there and they try to make it into a war. They make small skirmishes to the group so that they get excited, attack so that we come and destroy them. Prophet says, no, just whomever attacks them, they capture them and they release. This happens 2 or 3 times. So since they are not excited to make a war, then they say, okay, they make this treaty. You are not making Umrah this year. We are not going to have war for 10 years. This is the first item of the treaty. Second item, you're not doing Umrah this year, come next year. So they're preventing. And then the third thing they say, if anybody escapes from Mecca to join Medina, you're going to return them back to us. If anybody from Medina escapes to Mecca, we are not going to return them back to you. Prophet accepts this. Sahaba goes crazy, if you like. Like their blood is boiling. How come? Like we are accepting those, like this is defeat. We are not doing Umrah. Whomever, and it's not a just treaty. It's biased towards their favor. So they were they couldn't accept it. Prophet said, okay, now everybody, since they are not doing Umrah, sacrifice your animals, we are going back. Sahaba didn't move. Okay, so inshallah. Are you here tomorrow?
And I won't be here.
Okay. So Sahaba didn't obey. They heard, but they did not obey, which is interesting. Because feelings are boiling. People want conviction. They're saying that, are you not the prophet? Is your message not the truth? Why are we accepting this humility? Then prophet sacrificed his animal, shaved his head, then they followed suit. But in return from that journey, the verses came, Inna fatahna laka fathan mubina. Quran said that this is a victory. Or more properly, it's an opening. It's a fath. It's opening. And truly, this is how doors of people's heart opened to belief, the message, because Prophet was a messenger. He was not a king to practice power over somebody else and conquer lands. He was interested in conquering people's hearts because that message is going to give eternal life to people, to his enemies. He went to Hudaybiyah. The first journey was with 1,400 people. He went to Mecca 3 years later with 10,000 people. In that 3-year period, the message spread so much that the number became from 1,400 to 10,000. So now let's ask ourselves the question. Where am I in terms of getting immersed in the message, how important it is, how relevant it is, how much embody that message, how do I distribute that message? I think these are the things that if we are to study about something, let's study that. This is how long-term change happens and happened. This is how prophets practiced it and demonstrated it to us. If you would like to make anything for a change of good, I think it's the hard thing, but this is something that we can work on. And inshallah, next week we will start justice. Go ahead.
I don't know about everybody else, but I didn't understand the point about how the ummah is bleeding and it's showing in Gaza. Like I didn't understand that.
I was going to share before her about my understanding or my observations. So
Okay, go
may
ahead. Sure.
I? I will name the sites with Jewish and Muslims. So I will give examples about how Jewish people are holding strong to their religion and how Muslims are bleeding, how they're sick, by giving examples.
I would await that. Because I think this is more of a political case than, because if you name it as such, you are identifying cultural attitudes with faith, which is not the case here. So this is why I would await that. Like I would take this more, especially in the States, if you don't want to go to Guatemala, no, what's that prison somewhere in the Guantanamo. So you need to be watching out for the words that you use first. The second is also there is a justified reason for not to make it such a comparison, I would say.
Okay.
So we'll talk about it after, I would say, because otherwise it's going to get you somewhere.
Okay. I was gonna use some specific things which don't touch base on the war, but more on the power.
So what I would say is, in terms of Iman not being part of my life, our lives as believers who claim to be Muslim, we are not seeing the benefit of our Iman as much in our life, and it's manifesting in different ways. This is how I would put it. This is what I mean by, like, if you would like to take it in atomic sense in my personal life, there is my Iman, my security, that I'm even afraid to make any comment or anything of that sort comfortably. Or I do see some bad things happening, and I am starting to get shaken in my conviction, in my faith, because I say, like, I get angry, but I don't see mercy, wisdom, but I just throw the ball to the future, saying that I'm going to see this and that and whatnot. So I am feeling that weakness within myself. In the larger scale, the Ummah is in the same position. And the outcome is this, Palestine is just one case. I mean, look at all Muslim countries. I mean, forget about the bias of West. Did Muslim countries say anything? They cannot. The rulers are really representing how the people are. I mean, although people hate their rulers in most places, I don't know if you guys hate your king in Kuwait, probably not. Saudi Arabia, people are happy with their king, whatever, right? So if we are not even feeling troubled with this, then that means there's something wrong at the very core about our convictions. So I think this is, if we would like a long-term solution, and do not take this as a pacifism, because it sounds more sacred or more like correct to go ahead and chant or do this and that. I mean, demonstrate your stand, whatever. But if you would like a solution that you can contribute the most, fix this one.
So correct me if I'm wrong. But are you saying that basically like what is happening in Gaza, the way we're seeing that, and we're losing our Iman over what's happening because we're thinking that, oh, like, is God not merciful? Or like, is that a warning to us regarding our Iman?
I mean, this is one side of the story, but the other side is, I mean, just think about it. How do we end up in such a situation that nobody can say anything, including like Muslims and whatnot? So we are having so flimsy of a, like we are so much in the fear of even making any statement and whatnot. So I think the major, or even making sense of what's going on, is another side, as you say. So why such things are happening, why children are dying in there, what sort of a God is allowing this to happen, right? This is how people left faith in Jewish history because of Holocaust. If there's a God and we were the selected people, why is this happening to us, right? And these are legitimate questions, but do we have an answer to that? I mean, those people faced it and they couldn't find an answer back then. This is side of the story, but the truth is, where are we? Where am I? So generally, this idea of power
Yeah.
polluted our perception so much so
Uh-huh.
that we are trying to be this strong, and we are waiting for that strong, charismatic Muslim leader, which is going to be the iron fist over people. Prophet has never been that sort of a thing. This is like the message in my life. If you fix this, this is why Islam has been a grassroots movement. Prophet didn't go from top bottom. He started from people such as you guys, such as me, starting from there, going up, because this is where you fix people, you fix individuals, you fix yourself. But unless we start seeing that perspective, I think that same pattern will keep repeating, because doing that is hard. Changing yourself is hard. Trying to change somebody else is easy, or at least sounds easy. And you can push somebody, but can you push yourself? So this is what I am inviting ourselves to. Let's take ourselves to account, question ourselves, where am I? Then maybe inshallah.
I think that's an interesting perspective. And I think I've heard like some mentions of sort of the opposite, where it's like, oh, you know, like Palestinian people are being tested because they're such like good Muslims and their iman is so like unshakable.
I mean, they're being tested. You and I are being tested in here as well, like seeing that video and not being able to do anything. What's your attitude? What's my attitude, right? I mean, there had been an earthquake 6-7 months ago in Turkey, like cities got destroyed. Those people were tested in there, and I was watching those videos, and I was being tested in here too, in a different way. I mean, you have sleepless nights and whatnot, right? What is being your attitude, and what has been those people's attitude? We go back to the norm very quickly. We get lost in the comfort of life, because La ilaha illallah, I mean, I need to question this. Other than lip service, how much of a weight does it have in my life? Does it have a value of justice, freedom, or any such strong word, love, whatever you would like to take? Does it have a utility in my life? To what extent it has a utility in my life? Because I heard this a lot. One was very striking. It was an MSA president. I said, what does Tawheed mean? He said, oh, it's a vague concept. I mean, not to criticize that brother, but it's showing something about us. Vague concept. We need to think about it. Sorry for taking it so long. Let me close this.
Okay.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم